we're going to make our gluten-free cornbread stuffing. So we're going to start with the cornbread, and what we're going to need is 1 cup of polenta, and you can find that at your health food store. It's pretty much a coarse ground up cornmeal. And then we're going to add the masa, which is a fine ground cornmeal, and we'll add another cup of that. And we're also going to add a 1/2 cup of brown rice flour. We're going to finish adding the dry ingredients. So we're going to use kosher salt or sea salt, and you just need about a teaspoon. And then we're going to need an egg, so I'm going to go ahead and beat an egg in a bowl. Now when you select your eggs at the supermarket, make sure you select organic or free-range, hormone-free eggs. We're also going to add a 1/2 cup of butter, and we're going to melt that down in a small pot. So we're using organic butter that has no hormones or pesticides. And to sweeten the cornbread, we're going to add raw honey. So I'm going to add a few heaping spoonfuls of this raw honey, and it's going to melt down with the butter. So you can find raw honey at your local health food store. Examples are Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, or even a farmer's market. So our raw honey has melted into our butter, and I've got it on low now. So I'm going to turn that off and let it cool just a little bit before I add it to our mix. Okay, now we're going to add our wet ingredients to the mix, and I'm going to start with almond milk, and this is a great dairy substitute if you're lactose intolerant or if you prefer just not to have dairy. So I'm going to start with about 1 cup. And we'll add more if we need it, and then we can add our egg, our beaten egg. And our melted butter, and then we're just going to whisk it in there. And you're going to need an 8x8 pan or cupcake pans, and you're going to want to have your oven preheated to 350 degrees, and it'll cook about for 30 minutes. So while that's cooking, we've got our turkey neck and gizzards boiling, and we're going to use that broth for the stuffing. So we'll get to that next. All right, so we greased an 8x8 pan, and we're just going to put it in the oven for about 30 minutes. We're going to chop up these gizzards. And it's going to be pretty gross, but it's going to make the stuffing taste delicious. So we're going to just dice it into very small pieces. And if you absolutely think this is just too disgusting to add to your stuffing, then it's not. It is optional, but it does make it taste a lot better. And we're gonna add this to our cornbread stuffing. It's gonna add a lot more flavor. It is optional if you do think it's just too gross for your taste buds. So depending on how many servings you're making of stuffing, you may or may not need the whole liver. So if you're doing 1 serving, then you'll need about half. But if you want to double or triple your batch, then you can add the whole liver. So we've got the turkey neck bone, and we're just going to pull the meat off this bone because we're also going to add this to the stuffing. It's going to add a lot of flavor. And it's really gross, but it's worth it. Okay, our cornbread's ready to come out of the oven. And you're gonna wanna make sure it's ready. You can insert a fork or a knife in there. And just remember, when you're cooking gluten-free, breads and pastries do not rise as well as gluten flours, so that is normal. Okay, so we've got our cast iron pot, and we are going to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and we've got that on medium heat. And we're going to add a couple tablespoons of organic butter. Okay, our butter has melted down, so I'm going to go ahead and add chopped onion. A half or a whole onion, depending on how big it is. It's about 2 cups. So we're adding our chopped onion and our chopped celery. And all the produce, all the vegetables that we're using are organic. There are no pesticides, and there is just much more nutritional value with organic produce. So we're sauteing in our olive oil and butter. Now we're going to add our giblets. And as that is sauteing, we can add freshly ground black pepper, some kosher salt or sea salt, a couple teaspoons, and about a tablespoon of sage, dried sage. And let's stir that together. So depending on how many servings you're doing, I'm doing a double serving of cornbread stuffing. You'll need either 2 or 4 eggs. So I've got 4 eggs. I'm going to beat them. And we're going to add that in after we add in the cornbread. So you're just going to take your cornbread and crumple it into the pot. And this is the fun part, because it's messy. After you've added all the cornbread in there, you're just going to add the egg on top. Then we're going to use that turkey broth that we made from the giblets, and we're just going to pour it right over, about 2 cups, and you can always add more. So we're going to stir it. And it is starting to smell glorious. Okay, so let's add some more ground pepper. And then a little bit more salt, about another teaspoon. And we can stir it a little bit more. And it's almost ready to go in the oven. We've got the oven on 350. And we're going to bake it for 30 minutes or until it starts to get brown on top. Let's go ahead and put that pot in the oven and we'll check it in 30 minutes. Alright, it's been about 30 minutes. We're going to check on our stuffing. And it's got a golden brown top. It looks delicious. It smells delicious. We're ready to go.